Shall we do the meditation?
Please.
Right? Can you put on the music?
Up.
Say it loud. Please close your eyes. પછી જોવું પડશે. Okay. હા.
બસ એટલી રાખ. પછી દેખાશે નહીં.
દેખાય વાંધો નહીં.
Please close your eyes. Relax the body. Breathe with the music. Our journey starts from the crematorium, the smashan. Visualize the smashan walls, the crem. Think of all the people who have come and gone here. And a small tremor should move through the body when we think of the cremation ground. Visualize yourself lying on the bed at home, and death is just a little time away. We are waiting for the moment of death. Before death comes, some of the symptoms of death, let us try to visualize those symptoms. The 5 elements, they have allowed us to experience life. We have enjoyed life because of the 5 elements. Now the 5 elements want to take their pattern back, their sanskar back. The first is the earth element. The earth element gave us support, but now it takes the support back. So you're sitting on the chair, but as if somebody's taken the chair away, and you're hanging midair. You're lying on the bed and you feel somebody has taken the bed away. These symptoms come for some time and then they go away. Again, you feel the bed is there. The earth element gave us happiness. The vibration of happiness comes from the earth. So thank the earth for all the happy times we had. The tanmatra of the earth element is smell. So for some time we will feel as if we can't smell anything. The second element is the water element, and we'll feel our body drying up. We'll feel as if we want to drink water. The heat of the body will increase. It's only temporary. It'll go away. Thank the water element. All our emotions, all our feelings, we were able to express because of the water element. It gave us the power to taste, and we enjoyed taste throughout our life. For some time you will feel as if you cannot taste anything. The third is the fire element. The power to see. We may feel for some time we become blind, we can't see. It gave us comfort. Thank the fire element. And then the element of wind, air. It gave us locomotion. We were able to move wherever we wanted to move. It gave us the power to touch, to feel, to touch someone, hug someone. For some time you will feel as if the power of touch has gone away. And then the ether element, the sky, it gives us the power to hear. For some time we'll feel we become deaf. It gives us freedom, the freedom to do what we want. So these symptoms of these elements, as if they are going, will come for some time, and again they will go away and we'll feel everything is normal again. And as death approaches, the symptoms will come much faster. As death approaches, all the energy of the body from every cell will sort of pull itself, come together at a small point beneath the backbone. Feel all the energies being pulled to a point beneath the backbone. As if the string of a bow is being pulled and the soul leaves on that string. In the last few minutes, you will see your life rewind. From an old man, you will become a young child again. In 3 minutes, life will rewind. Try to pause the rewind and change whatever decision you want to change. And at the final moment of death, we'll forget even our own name. There'll be a lot of light and we'll forget our own name. And at that moment, the soul will visualize the soul going out through the top of the head and our body falling lifeless. Look at your own body. 4 to 6 people pick up the body and take it to the cremation ground. See your own body being reduced to ashes, burning away. Nothing remains. The beautiful body is gone. Just the ashes. And then a strong gust of wind comes and scatters all the ashes away. And an emptiness remains. Try to remain in that emptiness for 1 minute, breathing in rhythm.
we study three types of the food: physical food, air food.
So there are three types of food, that is what you're saying: physical food,
Physical food,
air food, and impression
food.
food. Right.
So the previous two, the physical food and the air food we are controlling through the three-step rhythmic breathing. Physical food we change our schedule of diet. So the question is the third food, impression food, how we will digest properly and what care we should have to take while, because impression are coming all around simultaneously every seconds.
Yeah.
And we are absorbing through the five senses. So
Okay, so Gurudev talks about the food of impressions, right? And initially, you don't worry about digesting impressions in that way. You can think of digesting one impression, right? So you take any one impression, supposing the example we took yesterday, that somebody calls you something, or somebody insults you, somebody does not treat you properly. And that comes in as an impression, right? What will happen? What will happen immediately? You will want to react. The minute you react, what is happening to the impression? We are vomiting it out. So if we vomit the impression out, if we are vomiting the impression out, we cannot swallow it, we cannot digest it, right? So now, so what do we have to do over there? What do we have to do? What is the first step in digesting an impression? Pause. We pause our reaction, right? And then you see, there is going to be a tug of war. It is not that you pause the reaction will come back. Again, your understanding will come back. And in that, the impression will go forward and backward, right? So it is like you take some food in your mouth, but before swallowing that food, you chew it, say 40 times. So you're chewing the food in your mouth. Similarly, she has said something to me and I want to react to her. But my understanding comes and I pause that. But even when I pause it, the reaction is going to come back. So I'm holding the impression and I'm trying to pause the reaction again. And I try to chew the impression like I chew my food. Now, the way of chewing the impression is to just hold it in sensitivity, right? So what we could say is that I have felt hurt. She has said something to me. I have felt hurt. Just hold that hurt, right? And if I can hold that hurt for some time, it is as if I'm chewing that hurt, because so many thoughts are going to come that I give it back to her. So many positive thoughts will come, no, you keep holding it. Can you see? And all this is going on, and in that the impression is being chewed, right? And a point will come when you may be able to relax a little, and the reaction is not bothering you any longer. The reaction has gone away, right? And that is the time when you swallow the food. You have chewed the food properly, and then it goes on the process of digestion. So, before trying to, what do you call, be in a state where you're digesting all the impressions, take one impression and try to digest it. Another impression you can take is something which you don't understand. So supposing you have read something in Mr. Tavaria's book or somewhere else, maybe in the Gita or the Yoga Sutra, and you, what do you call, churn it in your mind. You see, you allow it, what we call, we do manthan on it. In English, we would use the word, we do mentation upon it. It is a kind of mentation. And in that, I am chewing that impression. Right? You see, in the old days, food was not so soft as we have it now. Food was very hard food. And people had to chew the food for a long time before they were able to swallow food. And then with the advances in cooking, we now eat soft food. So we've lost the, the habit of chewing the food. You understand what I'm trying to say? And that is because food has become more and more soft. My daughter is in a cooking class. She's taking 6 months of cooking class. So one of the, of course it is a vegetarian cooking class, but they copy many non-veg things. So one of the things she was making recently, which she told me, was the gulati kebab. You've heard of the gulati kebab? Right? So there was this Nawab Wajid Ali Shah of Lucknow, and he lost all his teeth. Right? So he told his cook to invent a kebab, which when you put in your mouth, it, dissolves completely. You don't have to chew. Right? So, my daughter was learning the vegetarian gulati kebab. You put it in your mouth and you don't have to chew. So we have come to there, from whatever semi-raw foods we used to eat to, we've come to this. And, but in the daytime, whenever you get time, try to take one impression and chew on that impression. Right? So before you go to self-remembering and trying to digest the impressions, learn to chew on one impression. Right? And make it a habit every day. At least 2 or 3 impressions every day you will work upon. Right? Say tomorrow, somebody is going to load a new software in my computer, right? Now there will be how to operate it, so you have to put directed attention, and you have to understand everything, and you have to practice and chew it. You understand? So it doesn't have to be just a spiritual impression. Take any impression, right? And practice the chewing of the impression. Right? Then come to divided attention. So when we practice the rhythmic breathing, we are automatically dividing attention a little, right? So to breathe in rhythm, we have to put a little bit of attention on the music and the rest of our attention on our breathing, right? And we breathe in rhythm. So automatically there is a division of attention. Of course, like you said yesterday, attention in reality cannot be divided. But still, there is a to and fro of attention. And as you practice three-step rhythmic breathing, you will get this just as you're breathing in 1, 2, 3 and breathing out 5, 6. You will get the knack of attention moving out 5, 6, attention going in 1, 2, 3. You understand what I'm... A very fast speed, but the rhythm will be the same, right? So, in a way, three-step rhythmic breathing is self-remembering. Self-remembering. Because we are training the breath, and the shadow of the breath falls on the attention. And attention goes 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Now, then you can then come to a state where you're digesting one by one impressions, right? So you've divided the attention, what Gurdjieff calls as self-remembering. Now, what does that division of attention do? How does it help in the digestion of the impression? What is happening over there? Can you tell me? How does it work?
So when you are saying dividing the attention, so whatever you have learnt and the impression is coming, dividing between those two?
Yes, the one on the impression and one on the person who is experiencing the impression.
Okay.
He does not call this divided attention, he calls it as double-arrowed attention. Double-arrowed attention. What happens over there? How does that help in the digestion of the impression? When you take food in your mouth, to send the food on the process of digestion, what do you have to do?
You have to chew and saliva.
Okay, now we forget the chewing part. What do you have to then do? You have to swallow it. So to swallow the food is not going to swallow itself, be swallowed itself. You have to make a special effort to swallow the food. It is as if somebody from behind is pushing the food in that swallowing action, and the food is going down the throat. Right? Now, what is swallowing here at the level of impressions? Because the laws are the same, nothing is going to change, whether it is physical food or impression food. What is the act of swallowing? What is the act of swallowing?
It's just the gulping without giving any...
No, that is physical act.
Okay.
We are talking at the level of
Mental
impressions. You see, the same thing has to be copied there, no? The law, physical food we swallow. Similarly, how do we swallow the impression? Huh? See, now when the impression is coming in, you are getting one experience of the impression. Something is being impressed. Whether an insult, right? Whether somebody has said something, whether I'm looking at this chair, something is being registered there in the frontal area over here. What Tavaria Sahib calls as IESM. We won't go into that, right? So something is registered over here. Now, at the same time that this is registered, I register this chair, if I can register I experiencing the chair, because it is double arrowed, one on the chair and one on the I who is experiencing inside. So what is happening? One impression is coming from outside and one impression I'm taking inside. I'm actually taking two impressions. And this impression of I which I'm taking inside, it pushes that impression which has come from outside on the process of digestion. Process of digestion. You get it? So this is what Gurdjieff is talking about. We call it as double dhakka. One extra push. And that extra push is provided by the impression of I looking at the chair. I being insulted. Can you get it? Or I do not understand this sentence. Right? So that's do not understand is being impressed upon by registration, and what do you call, there is an extra push and it moves on the process of digestion.
So જ્યારે તમે કહો છો the અંદરનો I, right? So it is not a self-remembering, right?
It is self-remembering.
No, but you are saying the I which is experiencing the
Yes,
impression.
so you're remembering the self.
But that time...
You're holding the presence at that moment.
Yeah, but you are holding the present, but you are not witnessing the chair or the impression. You are not experiencing the impression, because once you remember the self, something just breaks. I mean, then you are so relieved. Then you are
Yeah, but you won't forget the chair. You want to digest the impression of the chair. So the impression of self is pushing the impression of chair down the process of digestion. That is what is happening.
So any impression, let's forget about the chair, the insult, let's say insult,
Yeah.
right? So insult, and then the I is experiencing, so I go back to I, and so as soon as I go to I lose kind of, because it cannot be at two places, so kind of I lose the insult, and my attention is on the I, or I remember myself. So in that part, the impression becomes little loose and little
You
less,
swallow the impression.
Yeah, little less.
You swallow the impression.
Okay.
Is this now clear? Right? So the important thing is the holding of presence. To hold the presence. Right? So there's an impression of presence and there's impression which has come from the senses. Right? Now, why do we want to digest impressions?
Because we do not want the identical memory to come up.
Let
with
us now
resistance.
go into the Have you studied the law of octaves?
Yeah, I hear about the.
Huh?
I heard about the law of octave, law of three.
So that impression which is coming in, according to the law of octaves, what note is coming in? Do 48, according to, right? Now supposing I vomit it out, then it goes into a descending octave which we call as negative emotion, and it becomes 96. Right? 96 is moon. Now supposing we are moving up in the octave. We are moving up in the octave, so Do 48 will become Ray
24.
23.
24. What is ray 24? Now, see, then that gives us that we have moved from here to here. If we know what ray 24 is, what is ray 24?
Is it sun?
No, no, no.
Planet.
It is at the level of the planets.
Planet.
It is at the level of the planets. Now, what do the planets give us?
Personality?
No, 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 no.
Not that.
What comes from the planets? See,
Sanskar?
right, but sanskar is made up of what?
Vibrations.
Huh?
Vibration.
No.
Magnetism?
Vibration is a general term.
Magnetism?
Right. Magnetism. Life comes from the sun, magnetism comes from the planets, or you can say form comes from the planets. Right? And material comes from the earth. Right? So now we are moving from earth, which is the impression, do 48, to second note is ray 24, sa, ray. Ray 24. What is ray 24?
We are rising in consciousness.
Come on, all of you have experienced it. All of you have experienced it. What is ray 24? And I want to come to that because the Indian system, Vedanta and the six darshans which have come out of India have not talked about impression food. None of them have talked about it. Is only Gurdjieff who has talked about impression food. Right? So we have to accept what he says. What has the Indian system talked about?
Dvait.
Huh?
Indian system talk about Dvait.
No, no. You're chewing the food. What happens next? Come on.
Extraction.
Digestion.
I thought I was going to go to sleep. All my sleep has gone away.
The extraction process.
No, come on, no. Yeah. Experience-wise. You go into the sensitivities of the food, the taste. It will not. You go into the sensitivities of the food. Can you get it? So, dough is the food, the impression which has come in. Ray is the 5
Senses.
sensitivities. 5 sensitivities. Can you understand? The food you're eating will have a smell, right? It will have a taste. It will have a feeling of whether warm or cold. Of course, you like your food to be warm, right? Then
Texture.
there will be the, what do you call, the feeling of touch on the tongue, on the cheeks, on the palate, right? And there will not be sound as such, but there is sound involved somewhere over there, right? Because the very eating of the food is going to create Bij Mantra, right? No, you didn't get it? Supposing we are talking about Kali. So, one aspect of Kali is she devours everything. So, as you choose as you chew the food, as food it has died. Right? As food it has died. Kali is working. Right? So there is a Bij mantra involved. We cannot sense it, we cannot understand it. This is a different thing. Right? Can you get what I'm trying to say? So the sensitivities will be movement from Do to Re. Right? What are these sensitivities called in our Indian system? What are these Tanmatras. Tanmatras. Right? Tanmatra means that the electromagnetic impulse. Can you see planets? The form, the breaking down of form. Right? Now, my personal view, this is my personal view, not this thing. And because Tavaria Sahib has not talked about impression food, he has talked about incoming impulses. And he's directly talking about the Tanmatra. He's directly, impulse means Tanmatra. Yeah. So, he's not talked about, his thing will start from not Do 48, from Ray 24. Right. Now, what happens when you go into the sensitivity of the food? So we are now not talking about the food as physical food, we are talking about the food as an impression, as an impulse, right? And that impulse is giving us the 5 sensitivities. 5 sensitivities, right? So, now, what happens when you go deep into the, supposing, let's try it in another way. You don't like a certain food, say. Say Karela, you don't like. Okay? I don't know. But, right. Okay, you don't like Karela. But if you pause the like-dislike, which is a reaction, the like-dislike is a reaction, and you just keep on chewing and you keep on chewing and you enter into the feeling of that Karela, it no longer remains Karela after a certain time. It becomes a general, what you call, from a particular, Karela is a particular. From that, it becomes a general thing where it is giving a general feeling, a general taste of a certain kind. Can you get what I'm trying to say? And at that moment, what will happen? At that moment, what will happen?
You get out of the feeling of liking, dislike.
Huh?
You get out of the feeling of
No,
liking.
you pause the like and dislike. You have paused the like and dislike, and you're chewing it and going deep into the sensitivity. What will happen? Supposing you practice this tomorrow, At one point you will forget what you have eaten. Right? And you will be totally dissolved in that sensitivity. Can you get it? And in that dissolving in that sensitivity, what comes to you in that moment?
Enjoyment.
A feeling of?
Enjoyment.
Enjoyment. Can you get what I'm trying to say? Now forget food for some time, we come back to food then, because it's easier to explain with food. But supposing I'm listening to some music, right, and I'm listening and I enter into the sensitivity of the music, right, there is the, what do you call, the sound which I'm hearing, right, the vibrations which it is, this thing. And it may have a certain flavor, because every rag will have a certain flavor, right? It may have a certain flavor. And in one moment when I dissolve in it, there'll be an immediate flash of enjoyment. This is what we call as Sur Samadhi. Whether it is music, whether it is food, whether it is one line I have read and I'm chewing that line. Can you understand? And at that moment it becomes food for the soul, that moment of enjoyment. And if I can be conscious in that moment of enjoyment, I don't have to do double arrowed attention, right? Then I've bypassed Gurdjieff. Can you understand? Directly I've taken the sensitivity, and in that moment of enjoyment I brought in consciousness. It becomes food for it moves on to digestion into something much higher. From the sensitivity, I have moved into something called enjoyment, right, which is higher than the sensitivity. And in that, if there's a glimpse of consciousness, then there's a glimpse of the ultimate also. The food has digested. Can you see? It has gone on the process of digestion, right? So, in the Indian system, there was no impression. There was incoming impulse, which is called as tanmatra. And tanmatra was general. Impression is not general, right? You're sitting on the chair, feeling of comfortable or uncomfortable, and then you dissolve into the feeling. That feeling of comfort or feeling of roughness or softness or whatever, in the end it is not the chair. Can you get what I'm trying to say? So then the chair was individual, but the tanmatra becomes general, right? And there must be a movement from the impression to the tanmatra. So in Gurdjieff, if there is a movement from impression to the tanmatra, but if they are in tension trying to hold double arrowed attention, they make a mess out of it. And that is what happens all the time. Right? So it is not practical. This double arrowed attention, the whole thing is not practical. Right? The Indian system is much deeper and much, this thing, what do you call? But to understand that, we have to go through Gurdjieff. That is the tragedy. And also, you know, without understanding Gurdjieff, we would have never understood what the Indian system was. Okay? Now, in which community do you see a reflection of this? This same science. Which community do you see a reflection of this?
Vaishnava.
Huh?
Vaishnava.
Vaishnava.
Right. Have you read it somewhere or what?
No, my neighbors and those are Vaishnavas.
Fun-loving people.
As the Vaishnavas say, God is ras. Right? And from the tattva is the impression. From the tattva, if you've taken the tanmatra, and from the tanmatra, if you have moved to enjoyment, then you have extracted ras. So they say each moment in life you have to, what do you call, steal the makhan from each moment in life. You have to become a makhan chor. Right? Makhan chor is nothing but digestion of impression. The impression comes in, you move to the tanmatra, right? From the tanmatra, you move to a moment where everything dissolves, and there is that feeling of enjoyment. And in that feeling of enjoyment, there is an experience of the person who is enjoying, the real I inside. Can you get it? Huh? It is very easy to practice with food, very easy to practice with music, but in normal life, sometimes it is not so difficult. It takes some time to come to that. And of course, to transform negative emotions, of course, it is much further. If she insults me and I say, I want to extract the tanmatras, it's not good. I can't start from there, right? But I have to come to that. I have to come to that, right? So, if we can just understand this much, we have understood everything. We've understood everything. That is all that has to be done. Can you get it? Right? 100 herbs go into the making of that gulati kebab. So 100 sensitivities when you eat that. Right? So even though it's soft, don't allow it to dissolve. Hold it, dharana Shakti, in the mouth and take the sensitivities. From the sensitivities, move to enjoyment. And from enjoyment, move to consciousness. And from consciousness, who is experiencing this consciousness? And that is the end of the journey. Finished. That's it. So simple. Does it? No other sadhana comes in. Just digestion of impression. Well, I hope it's answered the question. Yeah. So next time. I wanted to talk about one more thing yesterday because you were asking. One of the things we must observe is our muscles. We cannot allow build-up of tension, wrong tension in the muscles. Can you get it? Supposing you're running an office or something, and when you're running an office, then all kinds of things are going to come from all over the place, right? And you hear, okay, you have made made a promise to make a payment here, and then somebody comes in the office and says, oh, but that payment has been delayed in coming. It happens, right? So whether we know it or not, in our daily life, from morning to evening, there's a lot there's a lot of accumulation of tension in the muscles, which we have taken for granted. We don't, bother about it. Right? Now, that tension is lying in the muscles. It is stored up energy. If it is used in the right way, it can generate electricity. Right? It can. Right? But then, from just stored up energy, it becomes negative energy. Right? So, something happens, and all that which is built up energy, it suddenly takes on a negative tinge. Just one small thing can happen. And then we express it as negative emotion. If there is no build-up in the muscles, right, then there is no, build-up of energy. And then it cannot become negative energy. Then there's no question of negative emotion, expression. We'll call it as energy, negative emotion, that it is now taken on negative this thing, and negative expression. There's no question of negative expression. So, to look at the muscles, to observe the muscles, a self-observation starts with the moving center, and moving center is muscles, and most important center is moving center, right? So, and we consciously keep relaxing the muscles, then there's no build-up of energy, that energy cannot become negative, and we cannot express negative emotion.
So in a day-to-day life, by stretching every day all different muscles of your body,
Yeah.
would help in.
It will help.
In that
Idea
part?
is to bring attention.
Of course, of course.
Bring attention, right? So each posture, try to hold for at least 20 seconds.
Okay.
So if you're doing this, then hold it for 20 seconds, bring in attention, right? And then release. So there are three parts: the tension, the holding of attention, and the release. Three parts you're explaining, right? Same with all that. And in itself, I have found that this is the biggest weapon against negative emotions. Relaxation of the muscles. And even if we don't relax, just the bringing of attention to the tension in the muscles, it transforms it into something higher. The rolling attention through the body, right, transforms it into something higher.
What happens, you feel that now you are moving little forward, and then something comes and you realize, no, you are where you were before. So it is, you feel that you are going, or you are becoming more conscious or more aware, but one again stone comes and then you realize that, no, you still
Yeah, but it is three-dimensional. It is not two-dimensional.
And what do you mean by that?
That we are moving forward,
Okay.
and then something happens, and suddenly today I explode. So I feel that I have come back, all my, effort has gone waste, and I've come back to, but that is not, it is a spiral movement. So what looks like I've come back, there is a small gap between that previous and this one.
Yes.
Can you get it?
Yeah.
And I have climbed that one step. Even though I have become mechanical, I have got angry, I have exploded, but I have climbed that one step. That one step. Right? And that is very important to understand that. Otherwise, we won't make effort only. Right? If we keep on coming back to where we started from, then we'll never make any effort. Right? So it is this understanding that we make the effort. Now,
So it becomes, there is a difference in frequency and intensity.
Yeah, it is there.
So-
The frequency
so
has
that's how
come
it
down
keep
quite.
rising,
Yeah,
yeah.
agreed.
Now, another thing to observe, supposing you have insulted me and you have gone away. Now I want to give it back to you. So do you feel that build-up of tension inside? Okay, when can I? Have you experienced this? Everybody has. Nobody can say they've not. Right? Or sometimes when animalism comes in and you feel the urge for sex or something, suddenly something is building up inside. It's very important to observe that building up. Very important. Something which is lying unexpressed wants to come out. And if we can understand that, if we can observe that, we can relax the muscle. Sometimes even by relaxing the muscles, it does not work. But we keep on relaxing the muscles, tensing and relaxing. And we come to a state where we can hold that state without my giving it back to you, throwing it, vomiting it out. Then what will happen is I'll understand exactly what Kali means. So that unmanifest universe, which was lying in the Bindu, which due to cosmic tension, not our ordinary tension, cosmic tension, right? It wanted to express. So we are standing on that boundary between not expressed and expressing. And that is the moment where Kali comes in, the first expression. Right? So if we can, and there are many things. Like it may not be, I may have said something to you and you've gone away, and now I feel I have to say sorry. And I'm feeling so disturbed. Till I say sorry, I'm not going to get relaxed, the feeling of relaxation. But can I hold that state? Be in that, where the unmanifest has not become manifest. And that is that in-between state where from the unmanifest, it comes out that Kali is expressed. Time has started.
So whatever the burning is going on, you just observe that.
It's a very good training, very, very good training, very good training. And it increases dharana shakti like anything, the power of dharana like anything. So these were, how much time, what's the time?
Half an hour left.
Now, Kali as time, and try to see time without form and time with form. What is the normal form which time takes? Normal form.
Space.
Change.
Past, present, future. Right? We say it has 3 legs, time. Past, present, future. That is the form with which time takes. Right. Now, how is the present created? I'm not taking this, I'm just going on. We have about half an hour or so. What goes into the creation of the present moment? How is the present moment created?
In self-remembering?
No, self-remembering, we are doing something else. See, the normal form of time is past, present, and future. Is there another form of time, a higher form of time? And how do we enter into that higher form of time? First of all, is there?
Since you are saying there must be.
But we have to start with the present moment. What creates the present moment? How is the present moment created? Oh, we've done this before. Everybody forgets. Self-remembering and self-forgetting. See, the reality outside, each moment, the 5 senses are taking a photograph of that reality. It is an audio photograph, a light photograph, a smell photograph, and that together comes to form an impression. Clear? So one photograph, right, is what we call as the present moment. The present moment. Because something has to register. Without registering, I cannot say there is the, what do you call, time, right? So the most smallest part of reality which I can register is a photograph of the 5 senses. And that I call as my present moment. Right? And that is why we have a saying that the five senses are always in the present moment, because they create the present moment. Now, what happens to the mind? What happens to the mind? Or what happens to my consciousness which is attached to the mind? What happens? At the moment of creation of the present moment, and of course, then the mind, it puts the photographs of present moment, so it creates the past, present, and it, what do you call, visualizes imagines a future, right? So it creates the three parts of time out of that present moment. Now, when that, because we are talking about impression food, now we are just looking at it from another way. So when that present moment comes in, what is happening to the mind? What is happening to the mind?
Mind starts liking, disliking of whatever the senses.
It is never there to receive the present
Picture.
moment. It is always in the past or always in the future. And because my consciousness is attached to the mind, I am always in the past or I am always in the future. The senses are bringing in something called the present moment, right? And out of that, my mind creates the three forms of time. But supposing I can bring my consciousness there when that comes in, not in the past, not in the future, then what happens to that present moment?
It gets registered in the
It goes into another dimension of
time.
time. It goes into another dimension of time. That is the digestion of the impression. Its very movement in another dimension of time is the digestion of the impression. You get what I'm trying to say?
So that digestion, what kind of fruit does it give? When you are in a present moment, the consciousness in a present moment, when the impression comes and the digestion happens of that impression, that digestion, what brings in?
There will be a feeling of another time.
Not so much for it.
We go back to ordinary food because easy way to, what do you call? Now, supposing I eat a chocolate, right? But I hold that chocolate in my mouth just to extend the taste. So in that there is a feeling of extension of time.
Expansion of consciousness.
Extension of time. The chocolate, I have come right into the present moment. The chocolate has gone and it is giving me as if time has stretched a little. Can you understand? You do it in another way. Supposing you fall in love and you're sitting with her and you have no concept of time. Because time just flows, right? What has happened in that moment, right? So you feel as if time has not moved, it is like you're in eternal time. So the feeling of self-remembering, the feeling of bringing consciousness, that feeling of enjoyment, in that moment you are no longer in the past, present and future. You have moved into another time. We can call it as eternity. Eternity. Right? And that eternity is Mahakal. Mahakal. Right? So from the present moment we move into another dimension of time. Right? And this dimension of time has past, present, and future, which is made out of the present. The mind joins them together as if it is putting pictures in an album, right? And it creates that. And we move into another time. So what you're saying, when there's the feeling of self, there's that feeling as if time has stretched or time has stopped. The ordinary movement of time has stopped. It has moved into another dimension. And this is the dimension of consciousness. Tada drashtuhu swarupe avasthana. Drashtana swarupma avastha, one avastha, second avastha, you're moving up. Then Patanjali says swarupe pratishtanam, but that he says right at the end. But till then, swarupe avasthanam. The whole Yoga Sutra is swarupe avastha to swarupe pratishta. Bolo. So Kali is the backdrop for creation. Now we'll just go into her imagery. Right? She has a dreadful face.
So when you say images, so any Devi, it does not have fixed image. It would change with experiences it goes through.
What?
Kali, right? You are saying that. Let's look at her images.
No, what she represents, the imagery.
Imagery.
Okay.
The imagery, what
Imagery,
she
okay.
represents. The actual study should have been done through yantra and mantra, but we are studying the statue.
Right. Okay.
The qualities hidden in the statue.
So whoever does the yantra and mantra sadhana, they would visualize this kind of structure in
No
front of
need,
them?
they would invoke these higher qualities.
Qualities.
They would invoke these higher qualities. I remember maybe 10 years ago, before the children's camp, Bhagwan called me and he says, I want you in this camp to teach the children how to invoke presences. How do you teach children to invoke presences? Invocation. So she has a dreadful face which can frighten anyone. Her hair is disheveled as if she has just woken up in the night. The freshly cut heads as her garland. She's drinking wine. And her janoi, the sacred thread, is a snake, a serpent. And she's sitting on a bed of snakes. She has 4 arms. The upper left hand, she holds a sword. And that sword is full of blood because she has just cut off one more head. And that head which she has just cut off is in her lower left hand. Her upper left hand is a sword and then a head. Her upper right hand is in Abhay Mudra, right? Freedom from fear. And her lower right hand is in Vardhan Mudra. She is granting favors. Within the qualities of that sadhana of Kali, there is also the quality that all our desires are fulfilled. She is granting favors over there. The head represents ego and ignorance, and the cutting of the head represents freedom from ego and ignorance. In the original tantric form, she was completely naked. That means there is no conditioning, no personality, pure essence. The heads cut off indicate that all her karma is without identification. Right? So there is no real karma at all, because the head, the thinking creates the karma. The thought creates the karma. Her ornaments on her ears are the, what do you call, dead bodies of children. So children hear everything for the first time. Right? They are not victims of ordinary suggestibility. Right? So he's saying she's free from the energy of sensitiveness, and there's energy of sensitivity. As long as we are suggestible, આપણે ગુજરાતીમાં કે કાચા કાનનો છે, right? Then we are with the energy of sensitiveness. Her breasts are round, and she wears a girdle, kamarband, what we call a girdle, of severed human hands. Right? Blood trickles from the corners of her mouth, and her face is shining. Right? She makes a terrible sound, and she lives in the smashan, the cremation ground, where she's surrounded by howling jackals. She stands on the chest of Shiva, and Shiva is in Shavasana, as if he's dead, he's become a corpse, inert. Now, there are two forms over here. In the old tantric form, Shiva's ling was in her yoni, so they were in what you call in sexual pose. But in the later forms, that was taken out, but they show her expression as that she wants to have sexual union with Shiva. Now, this pose of sex where the woman is on the top, right? And it is called as Viprit Karni in Tantra. Viprit Karni means the reverse of creation. That is, you're taking the Kundalini energy back to where it came from. Not only that, it is a very auspicious pose, very auspicious. That in the sense that we see, what do you call, we see murat for everything, right? What is the right murat? But if the person seeing murat, if in the morning before seeing the murat, he has had sex in the Viprit Karni pose, then everything is auspicious for that day. He does not have to look at any murat or anything on that day. Because she's in sexual union, her expression is of deep satisfaction. She's smiling. Her skin is pitch black. Kali, one of the interpretations is blackness. The black wife of Shiva. Now when things are pitch black, they give off what is called a bluish gleam, a bluish luster. And that is the light of darkness, the light of Sat, what we call.
Rajen, for the conception and for getting a child, you said that one should avoid this Viprit Karma.
We avoid, because then you're with nature. In Viprit Karni, you're going against nature, right? And when you want to control, there are different techniques to control whether you want a male child or a female child. That cannot be done in Viprit Karni. Right? So that can only be done in the natural posture. There was in many of Krishna bhajans have not been what you call published or printed. And there was one bhajankar in the maybe nearly 1,000 years ago, and his name was Girdhari Lal. And he has written a number of bhajans on Krishna and Radha. And many of them are about the sexual union of wherein he has put a lot of tantric concepts. And in most of them, the pose is the Viprit Karni pose. Her tongue comes out, moves around, long tongue. Her eyes are sunken inside. And she holds a crescent moon on her forehead, Ardha Chandra on her forehead. She's decorated with serpents, snakes, and she has this garland of 50 human heads. She has a large belly, and Anant, the king of serpents, his hood is above her, guarding her. Shiv looks like a small boy in front of her. She makes a loud laughing sound, and her three eyes can take in the past, present, and future and merge it into one. Now, the first striking part of this is her black color, right? And black has conflicting qualities. Some people take it as very negative, some people take it as very positive. So on the negative side, it will represent shame, depression, heaviness, evil. Positively, darkness is stable, deep concentration. It has the force of gravity to pull, and it has a different kind of power, darkness. You feel as if the depth is endless in darkness. If we can get over our fear, then darkness reveals its qualities to us. But if we hold on to our fear, then we will only see the negative qualities of darkness. Darkness is mysterious. Now, in the Western world, darkness is, black is exclusivity. So if you go to a party, everybody will be wearing a black gown, or they'll be wearing a black suit or a dark suit. Everybody will come in a black limousine. So it, shows exclusivity.
These heads or the alphabets, there is always, some kind of difference there. Some say it is 50, some say it is 51. If you go by petals of the chakras, it is just 50, right?
50. But one head is in our hand, so sometimes we can say as 51.
That's fine.
Right. Darkness talks about a vacuum, right? When we talk about the black hole, gravity plus vacuum. It's the color of what do you call withdrawing from life, where you, or vairagya, withdrawing from life. But if you're frightened of it, then it evokes what you call pictures of death and bad misfortune. So both white and black, they have their own positive and negative sides. White will represent sunlight. It gives us warmth and brightens us, but if too much sunlight, then we become blind also, right? Kali devours time. She's eating time every moment. The moment we are born, we are already in the, what you call, process of Kali. Already the dying has already started. The devouring of us has already started. So, in her womb is the mystery of time. That very first movement from nothingness into somethingness, that very first movement is Kali. And in that the duality was done. One, we started with one pole, there is nothing, everything is the same. One pole, everything is changing. So within, it is from Kali that this separation happened, and so that is the beginning of duality. Darkness also represents nirguna, that there are no qualities over there, no gunas over there. So she is the Shakti of time. She is that state where there was no creation, from creation to create. She is the beginning and she is the end. And from, if we understand darkness properly, then everything dissolves into darkness and everything is again reborn from dark. So it is the color of transformation also. It is in that first darkness, that ultimate darkness, that the first stirring, the first expression, the first manifestation, which we call as Om, it happened in that. And that Om divided itself into 51 parts. It went round the backbone and it came back as Kundalini. It stopped as Kundalini just above the Muladhara chakra, right? And these 51 became the 51 letters of the alphabet, which came out of Om. And that is the garland which she is wearing on her neck. So that is Shabda Brahman. She becomes Shabda Brahman, Kali. From the various sounds, as these letters started forming and the Kundalini Shakti started wrapping around the back, different Bij mantras came out. She's wearing a belt of cut hands, means she, if you understand her properly, if you can visualize her properly, if you can create her form within yourself, then a lot of our karma gets destroyed. And that is the cut hands, the belt she is wearing. So Om is the first sound towards Srushti creation. It is the generalized sound, but the 51 sounds are particular sounds which have come out. And these are 51 packets of energy. It is out of these 51 packets of energy that the whole universe was created. And they contain the essence of the universe. So we stop over here. Tomorrow we'll take our hair, what it means.
So my question is, you are saying that with yantra and mantra, the sadhak works on yantra and mantra. How did this figure or this kind of structure came in picture? I mean,
so through using yantra and mantra, certain higher qualities came in. Suddenly they saw that a lot of karma was being dissolved. So how would you picture that karma? Belt of cut hands. So these pictures came out of that.
So someone created this kind of
These pictures initially were created inside, in the imagination of the
Sadhana.
visualization of the sadhana. But then some people started giving it form. But that must have been more than 2,000 years after the original.
Because you are saying that Bij mantra is just a one letter or two letters.
Cream.
Right? Cream. Oh,
Right.
right. So cream. And
Klim and Cream. The two, Cream is Bhuvaneshwari, Klim is Kali.
Klim.
Uh.
Okay. So just one letter, right? And the yantra is just a triangle arranged in certain ways. Just by those two things and the picture that you are.
Yes, but it's very powerful. Klim, Klim. It becomes very powerful. And all the tantric mantras have no meaning.
Yes.
No meaning
Yes.
at all. Whilst the other Gayatri has a meaning.
Yes.
These have no meanings at all. Very, very powerful. And also the tantric omkar, cream, which or rim, when you say. So rim is the tantric omkar.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. And it does not have any of the negative qualities of saying Om.
Wow.
Can you get it? It does not have any of the negative qualities.
That is also known as Devi Prana, right?
So we'll go into whatever we can in the next few days. Right?
So this Bij mantra has to be pronounced also in certain way.
Certain way also. So the lips have to be put in a certain way. The air has to come out in a certain way.
Because if the sound doesn't come out the way it is supposed to be, then it does not have much
won't
meaning
have.
to it.
Okay. We'll stop over here. Right. Good night.
Good